Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. These words have been spoken every morning and every evening by Jewish communities for over 2,000 years, but the book they come from didn't just preserve ancient tradition, it reinvented it. Deuteronomy doesn't repeat the Torah. It rewrites the rules of how humans relate to God. This is the story of a theological revolution hiding inside a farewell speech. To understand why the Shema matters, we need to understand the God Deuteronomy describes, because it's not quite the God of earlier texts. In older sources, God is enthroned on golden cherubim above the ark, visible in cloud and fire, physically present inside the sanctuary. Deuteronomy strips this away. God dwells in heaven. Only God's name in Hebrew Shem dwells in the temple. The ark, just a wooden box holding the tablets. And the great revelation at Horeb, earlier texts describe fire and the cloud you can see. Deuteronomy says you heard a voice but saw no form. A theophany, a divine manifestation, experienced through hearing, not sight. This is deliberate theological abstraction. This abstraction reshapes worship from the ground up. Deuteronomy centralizes all sacrifice in Jerusalem, one temple, one altar. That creates a problem. People living far from Jerusalem can no longer treat every animal slaughter as a sacred act. So Deuteronomy invents something new, ordinary profane slaughter. You can kill an animal for food anywhere, no altar required. But the sacrifices that do happen at the temple shift in meaning. The emphasis moves from blood rituals and cultic mechanics to shared meals. Eat before God, yes, but eat with the Levites who lost their local jobs, with orphans, widows, and resident aliens. Sacrifice becomes less about appeasing God and more about social justice and gratitude. Now, the most radical move, Deuteronomy chapter 5, verses 2 and 3, it was not with our fathers that the Lord made this covenant, but with us, the living, every one of us, who is here today. I think about what that claim means. The generation that stood at Sinai is dead. Moses is speaking to their children, yet he insists this covenant was made with you. Deuteronomy collapses time. Every generation is the Sinai generation, and it builds mechanisms to sustain this. Recite these words daily, that's the Shema. Teach them to your children, bind them on your hand and forehead. Write them on your doorposts, and every 7 years gather the entire nation, men, women, children, even the foreigners among you, and read the Torah aloud. Study, recitation, teaching, public reading. 4 threads connecting every generation back to the mountain. So Deuteronomy has given us a more abstract God, a more humanitarian sacrifice, and a covenant that never expires, but it goes further. The next 3 ideas, reciprocal love, chosenness, and a radical rethinking of holiness, take these foundations and build something that will shape religious thought for millennia. In the ancient Near East, treaties between empires and their subject states used the language of love. Assyrian vassal treaties demanded that the vassal love the crown prince with all their heart, but the love only went one direction, upward. The sovereign never loved the vassal back. Deuteronomy borrows this treaty language but transforms it. God loves Israel first, freely, undeservedly. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 14. God, who owns the heavens and the earth, was drawn in love to your ancestors. That divine love awakens a response. The Shema, Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 through 9, is the fullest expression. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And here's how the love becomes concrete. Recite these words, teach them to your children, bind them as a sign on your hand, inscribe them on your doorpost. Love expressed through constant engagement with Torah. And this love leads to one of the Bible's most consequential ideas, chosenness. The Hebrew word is bachar, meaning to choose or elect. Deuteronomy is the first biblical text to call Israel God's chosen people, and it's careful about what that means. God didn't choose Israel because they were the largest or most powerful nation. They were the smallest. God chose them because of love freely bestowed on their ancestors. The ancient Near Eastern parallel is a sovereign singling out a vassal as special property, a treasured possession. But Deuteronomy grounds this election in affection, not political dominance, and the chosenness comes with obligation, not privilege. Being chosen means being held to a higher standard. Now the subtlest revolution. The priestly source, known as P, one of the Torah's identified literary layers focused on ritual and purity, says, "You shall be holy." Holiness is aspirational. It's a goal at the top of a staircase. Obey the laws, perform the rituals, and you climb toward it. And Deuteronomy flips this entirely. You are a holy people to the Lord your God. Holiness isn't something you're working toward. It's something you already possess. You stand on holy ground right now. Like the danger isn't failing to reach holiness. The danger is losing it through disobedience. This reversal changes the entire psychological posture. P says, strive upward. Deuteronomy says, protect what you have. One motivates through aspiration, and the other motivates through the fear of loss. Both are powerful, and they are fundamentally different. These aren't just ancient theological debates. They're ideas that shaped and continue to shape living religious practice. The Shema is still recited every morning and every evening in Jewish communities worldwide. The idea of chosenness still shapes Jewish identity and provokes debate. And the ever-present covenant is why the Passover Seder says we were slaves in Egypt, not they were. And every generation stands at Sinai. Every generation left Egypt. Deuteronomy's collapsing of time isn't a literary device. It's a lived reality. For reading the Bible, recognizing Deuteronomy's distinct voice changes everything. The Torah isn't a monolithic document. It's a conversation between different theological perspectives. P and the Deuteronomy disagree about holiness, about God's presence, about the purpose of sacrifice. Seeing these tensions isn't a problem to solve. It's the point. And the Torah preserves multiple voices precisely because the conversation between them generates meaning. For broader thinking, consider what Deuteronomy accomplished. It abstracted God beyond physical form. It democratized law, placing Torah in the hands of every person, not just kings or priests. It grounded obligation in love rather than fear. These moves represent a turning point in the history of religious thought, and they all come from one book, delivered as one speech on the edge of a promised land. Deuteronomy asks, what if the most important moment in your people's history isn't something that happened to your ancestors, but something happening to you right now every time you open the text? 5 big ideas: an abstract God, humanitarian sacrifice, an ever-present covenant, reciprocal love and chosenness, holiness as a status you protect. Read Deuteronomy chapters 5, 6, and 10 for yourself. These ideas are waiting for you at Sinai.